Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely fascinating, the exact psychological mechanism that separates the people who easily give up from those who seemingly never, ever quit. I mean, we all know people who just seem to have this endless reservoir of drive, right? When things get tough, they just push harder. But why? Is it just genetics? Is it stubbornness? Well, it's actually something much more specific, and the best part is, it's something you can actively build for yourself.
So we really have to ask ourselves, what is the secret difference between someone who throws in the towel and someone who stays in the fight? To answer this, we're going to look at a classic, truly mind-blowing study. Back in 1998, Professor Claudia M. Mueller at Columbia University ran a massive experiment to see what happens to human motivation when it hits a sudden brick wall of friction. And she tested this on a very specific, notoriously tough crowd, fifth graders.
The setup for this 1998 Columbia University puzzle experiment was brilliantly simple. Professor Mueller took a huge group of these fifth graders and gave them a bunch of puzzles to solve all by themselves. Now, these weren't your average, easy kids' games. They were genuinely challenging. But here's the kicker, the really critical part of the setup. Regardless of how they actually did, every single child was told they scored amazingly well. They were all told, wow, you did better than most of the other kids in the room.
Now here is where the mystery begins, and where the researchers threw in a tiny tweak that literally changed everything. The students were secretly split into two groups. Half the kids were told they scored high because they were smart and gifted. The other half, they were told they succeeded because they worked hard. That's it. That is the whole intervention. Just a few different words of praise. One group praised for innate ability, the other for their applied effort. And the results? The difference was night and day. When the researchers brought out a new batch of puzzles, some easy, some extremely challenging, the smart kids instantly opted for the easy ones. They gave up quickly on anything hard and reported that the whole thing was just kind of miserable. But the hard work group? They dove straight into the hardest puzzles, spent way more time grinding through them, and actually loved it. They had this massive spike in motivation, all from one single phrase of praise.
Section 1. The Locus of Control. The psychological missing piece.
To understand why that one little phrase totally reprogrammed these kids' drive, we need to look at a core psychological concept called the locus of control. Basically, this is the degree to which you believe you actually have control over your life and the things happening around you. Think of it like this. Are you walking through life feeling like the pilot of your own airplane, totally in control of the yoke? Or do you feel more like a helpless passenger in the back, just crossing your fingers for a smooth flight?
That praise completely shifted the students' locus of control. The kids praised for being smart developed an external locus. I mean, think about it. You can't control being born a genius, right? It's outside your hands. But the kids praised for working hard developed an internal locus of control, because effort, how hard you try at a puzzle, is something you have absolute 100% control over.
So here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. An internal locus of control equals sustained motivation. Period. Studies prove this time and time again. To keep your drive alive, you have to feel like you have agency. You have to believe that you are directly responsible for your outcomes. The second you lose that belief, your motivation just completely evaporates.
Section 2. The Sales Team Test. Real-world stakes.
Let's pull this out of the classroom and look at a grueling real-world environment. We're talking old-school door-to-door sales. This is an industry where the rejection is so relentless that most people quit in the first week. Well, a veteran sales manager figured out how to predict exactly who would survive. No fancy personality tests needed. After a new rep's first terrible day, 8 hours of door-knocking, 0 sales, the manager would sit them down and ask one simple question. Why do you think you made no sales today?
Then he'd just sit back and listen. If the struggling rep started firing off excuses, oh, the weather was awful today, or it's the weekend, people are busy, or they gave me a terrible neighborhood, the manager instantly knew they were toast. They wouldn't last the months. Why? Because those are textbook external locus excuses. They were blaming their 0 sale day on everything except themselves.
And this is what we call the curse of the external locus. It's a tragic reality. When you believe the universe is just conspiring against you, your brain makes a very logical, if flawed, calculation. Why even bother trying? So you literally stop knocking on doors, you stop putting in the effort, and because you stop working, you guarantee that you make 0 sales. It's a brutal, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Section 3. The Action Plan. Building your internal locus.
But here is the good news. An internal locus of control isn't some magical trait you're born with. It's a mental muscle.
And researchers have found the absolute best way to build it is through a super simple 3-step framework. Step 1, solve a small problem in your life. Step 2, notice the improvement. And step 3, which is absolutely critical, credit your own actions for the success.
Let's ground this in reality with something we all deal with. Let's say you're trying to fix your sleep schedule. You're tossing and turning every night. Now, instead of just throwing your hands up and blaming your bad genetics or stress, you decide to be the pilot. You take the wheel, do some research, and map out a plan of attack.
You take full ownership. You start getting sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning. You strictly use your bed for sleep. Actually, scratch that. You completely ban doom scrolling in bed. And you install a blue light filter on your phone. Notice what these are? These are entirely internal actions. You have total control over every single one of them.
And then, after a few days of sticking to this routine, you get the payoff. You realize you are falling asleep exactly 15 minutes faster than before. You actually did it. The friction is gone, and you have a tangible, real-world result. Now comes step 3, the magic moment where you actually rewire your brain. When you notice that 15-minute win, you have to explicitly take the credit. You literally need to say to yourself, wow, it was because of the changes I made and the effort I put in that I'm sleeping better. It feels almost too simple, right? But taking that brief moment to acknowledge your own agency builds an undeniable, unshakable belief that you are the master of your own destiny.
By stringing together these small, deliberate victories, you completely shift your psychological framework. You build this armor of motivation that normal rejection and failure just cannot pierce. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want you to look at the biggest friction point in your life right now and ask yourself this final question. Are you waiting for the world to change, or are you changing it yourself?